guys, Live for Love TV. I want you to like, share and subscribe. Big up yourself.
Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today's the 17th day of the 4th month, the 22nd year inside the 21st century. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Today we're going to do a little bit of teaching, and when we teach we try to learn as well, so I know you're going to respond, those of you who are on the level to respond to what I'm going to say today. We have a thing called the Security Council, United Nations Security Council. Prior to the Second World War, that particular council was called the League of Nations. That collapsed during the Second World War. Obviously, there could be no League of Nations during the time of a massive world war. And after the Second World War, it turned into the United Nations. Now, one of the reasons it collapsed was because it didn't uphold what it was set up to do. And it was set up to stop nations invading nations. That's what it was set up for. So when Mussolini invaded in 1935-36 Ethiopia, and it did nothing about it, it then became so weakened that Hitler knew he could then move into anywhere he wanted to, and which was I can't remember the country he first went into, but the second one was Poland, and therefore the Second World War started. After that World War, we come to the United Nations. Now, on the United Nations, which is similar to the League of Nations, there are 5 permanent members. Those 5 permanent members are United Kingdom, United States of America, France, China, and Russia. Now, you may ask, how did they become the 5 members? That's a good question. The first permanent members, that's a very, very good question. We may be able to answer that later on. But the reason why I mention these 5 nations, because anything that's voted for in the UN, in the United Nations, and one of these 5 put their hand up and say they don't agree, that thing cannot go through the United Nations. They have the power of veto. They can stop anything that's voted on from going through. Now, why I mention that is, why is that so interesting, is because the United Kingdom currently has about a population of 70 million people. America has a population of about 330 million. China has a population of 1.3 billion. France has a population slightly bigger than England, close to 80 million, I believe. And Russia, my memory evades me at the moment. I can't remember exactly Russia's population. But anyway, if you look at countries like India, who have a population of 1.2 billion, the African continent that has a population of 1.3 billion, and Pakistan and Indonesia, massive populations, they are not on these particular councils. So they represent so many people, but yet they're not on the United Nations permanent members. So you would say this is not a balanced league. It's not a balanced nation, is it? You're looking for, they don't represent everybody. But there is a caveat to that, is that the reason that some of these nations came together is because they could. And they came together because they decided to, and they decided to put who they wanted to on those things. Now, when I've just mentioned billions of people that are outside of that, and those people from the African nation, India, Pakistan, Indonesia, many other countries that have big populations, they could come together right now and make their own United Nations. So if anybody's saying, why are they not on there as permanent members, just like the late Gaddafi used to say, the question would be back to him is, why don't they come together and make their own? They have bigger population representing than the people I just mentioned out of the 5, except China. But if you add the rest together, it will be a bigger population. So why don't they do that? That's the reason why I said it's not as straightforward as why these 5 people on there, because they could. They use their intelligence, their intellect, and although it's not fair, and that's how these intellects work, they don't work out to be fair for me and you, they work out fair for the person who uses their intellect. That's how intellect works, sorry to say. So anybody who thinks that, oh, these people are intelligent, or these people, why are they not treating us better? That is a very silly and very unintelligent way to look at the world. People normally do things for themselves. You may get a benefit from it, but it's usually done for itself. During the days of the British colonial rule over most of these countries, there was what you call transport system, infrastructure. Transport system was really, really good. They built great roads in these countries. They built railways, good railways from one end of the country to another that they ruled over. Not for the people, but the people benefited from it, therein. But they didn't build it for the people. They built it to steal the goods of those countries and bring them to Britain. Yet you'll see lots of Indians in India, in African countries. There were train lines running from one part of the country to another, and the regular people used to be able to use them. It wasn't built for them, but it was there that they could use. So whenever you talk about people's intellect, people always use their intellect to suit themselves first, and you may get a benefit from it. But an intelligent person always does this. So I don't complain when I don't see 1.3 billion African people with a permanent, like Gaddafi did. Why are they not on a permanent member? Why don't they have their own nation council? Why not? Remember, you're saying you're as intelligent as these other people, such as the United Kingdom. I only have 70 million people. You've got 1.3 billion. If you're as intelligent as them, you'll build your own thing, and you'll forget about them altogether and do what you have to do for your people. You don't go begging to be on their list, on their account, because what they do is they drip feed you, they promise you things, and eventually you don't get it, because they know you're not intelligent enough or have the ability or the strength to go forward and do for yourself. So I'm bringing that point up because this is constantly what we're led to believe. We hear people all the time moaning and complaining about the conditions that they're in, but they were given the same brain that every other human being has. Every human being has the same brain. How that brain is used is where the difference is. But if you're not using your brain power for the benefit of yourself and your people, you can't blame other people for doing that for the benefit of their people. And when they do it in a way that's unfair to you, you can't be surprised. This has always been done from the day dot. Man has always thought for himself. It doesn't mean he can't give a little bit to you, but the lion's share will always be his, because he came up with the idea. So I'm bringing up these points while I'm mentioning United Nations, because United Nations is a great example to me of how the world is and how people are, and why people, constantly complain about people not treating them well, when they themselves are treating themselves worse than the people are treating them. Because if you don't use your intellect, your consciousness, and your brain power to benefit yourself and the generations and generations and generations and generations that are coming behind you, then you're the one that's treating yourself badly, as far as I'm concerned. I don't go begging, and I don't go barling, and I don't go complaining. It's nothing to complain about from what I can see. Nothing to complain about. The United Nations represents the people who have the power and the intelligence to put their group together. That's who they represent. That's why China's on there. China's a communist country. Russia's a communist country, but they're one in the five. Most of the time you hear about the disagreements between the communism and democracy, but yet when it comes to the United Nations, 5 of them are on there. Not because they love one another. They're on there because they have power, because they have intellect, they have consciousness, and they work for the benefit of their people, and they make sure that they're on there. That's what everybody should be doing. Everybody who has that sense and consciousness, and all the leaders, I don't care what level they are, small community leaders whatsoever, they should be working this way and teaching their young to work this way, so that they start to think for themselves. Stop begging to be on somebody else's board. Make your own board. These things happen all day long. And every time they happen, I make that I make the same argument all the time, and people don't like it because they're lazy. They really don't want to do work for self. They really don't want to, put things together. They don't want to come into a level of agreement with their brothers and sisters. They don't want to do that. They'd rather sit on the sidelines and moan that everybody's not treating them well. Well, Live for Love TV doesn't operate like that. It believes in self, believes in the sort of Garveyite principles. It's amazing how many people talk about Marcus Garvey and can't get on with anybody in their community. It's amazing to me. It's amazing they can't build anything, but they say they're Garveyites. They can't build anything. They can't run a strong or a good business, but yet they're Garveyites. It's amazing to me, absolutely amazing. But anyway, I'm going to do a second and third and fourth and fifth part on this, because it's very important to me. And this is Live for Love TV. Take care. See you soon.
One step more. One step more. One step more. One step more until you reach your goals. One step more. This is